And hello.
Hi,
Great to see you, Jennifer.
good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a nice day. It's always a nice day because I look forward to doing these Hanging with Heroes. This is our
I
16th
know.
episode together.
What happens when we run out of people to talk to? Is it
I
just
don't
going to be
know.
you and I talking to each other?
Probably. We tried that on the first episode and it went okay. So,
Yeah. We had more to talk about. We never went into die cutting, so
true.
we could always revisit.
We always said we'd do more versions of that. So we've
Yes.
touched on a lot, though. Over 16 episodes, I think we've talked to some great crafty friends, and we've got two more really exciting crafty friends to
Yes.
talk to tonight.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited. Well, thank you all for joining. I know that this is kind of an exciting time in the industry with Halloween coming up and a lot of new releases for Christmas and card making and holiday card making. Fall colors are coming. Wow, what an exciting, inspiring time. I really appreciate you all joining us for an episode like what we're going to do tonight. We always try to talk about different things with different people. Jennifer and I have, like we said, did 16 of these. Really, the whole concept of Hanging with Hero, if you are joining us anew, is Hero Arts is 50 years old this year, which I'm very proud of. My mother founded the company in 1974, and my wife Laura and I have run it for about the past 25 years now in the same spirit with the same creativity, new products, new
Yep.
partners, new ways to sell, new ways to inspire. And that's really kept it fresh and new. And the best thing, of course, is just all of you joining, having fun with our products, having fun with the wonderful industry that we call crafting, card making, paper crafting, mixed media, whatever your preference. And yeah, it's been a beautiful celebration, I think, doing Hanging with Hero and celebrating 50 years of Hero Arts because really it's 50 years of a celebration of the industry. The industry really
Absolutely.
grew up at the start of Hero Arts and has gone in magnificent and beautiful ways. Last episode with Pam and Dana, we had tons of fun. I'm still smiling from that episode, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go back.
It was
Um,
hilarious.
it was
Hilarious.
hilarious. Yeah. And we kind of, we went through the history, went through their histories, which is, pretty typical of the 16 episodes that we've done. So
Yeah.
definitely look back if you haven't seen any. And for all of you who are joining us or maybe have seen many of these, thank you so much for coming today. One of the things that I want to celebrate tonight, because it really does honor our two guests who will come out in a minute, and that is the kind of wonderful personalities and stories and adversity and creativity and innovation that this industry is about. And it really starts with the people who, like all of you in the comments, and the store owners, the people who have started stamp companies and scrapbook companies,
Yep.
like when we talked with Catherine, the magazines in the industry, the teachers like you, Jennifer, really, forging a new way for people to use their products, think about techniques, really find that joy. And I think all of that comes together in such a beautiful way that is that crafting therapy that we've talked about so many times on the
Yep.
show. I just think that there is something to that. Now, we never talk politics, but the world can be crazy and an election's coming up. And this is where I just like push all that stuff away
Uh,
and just appreciate,
yep.
the support of friends, the joy of crafting, the joy of making a card for someone, the holidays coming, imagining how I can give to people that I really appreciate. And I think that that's what this industry celebrates. And it starts with so many times all the people, for example, that we've spoken with.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's really exciting. Even just looking back at the body of work that we've done of the 16 episodes, I'm just proud of the people to say that they're friends, to say that they're kind of a
Yeah.
part of the same industry that I'm a part of.
This is our happy place, and it's good that people are getting to meet the people behind it and why it's
Yes,
our happy place.
yes, for
Because
sure.
not all hobbies have this kind of good vibe about it. So it's great that people are getting to see more of why it's so good.
Yeah. Not all industries, come to each other's help, support when they're down.
Yep.
Not all industries have that friendship and camaraderie among competitors. Not all industries where you see kind of somebody that maybe is a vendor or you think of them as maybe as a friend in business, would visit your location and come hang
Right.
out with you. It's a unique place. It really is
Yep.
a unique corner of the world that we have here. And I think that not only we're celebrating 50 years of Hero Arts and 50 years of the stamp industry, but I think we're celebrating the 50 years of this wonderful industry that we call home. I'm very proud and excited to come to work every day because of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, we've known each other, 20
All
plus
right.
years. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
My
I
husband was
feel like I'm better
asking
for it
me.
knowing you.
Yeah, my husband was asking me, and it's got to be coming up on 25, getting
Yeah.
close to that. 2025, but
Yep.
long time, long time.
True. Yes.
Yep,
Definitely better for it. I think I can't
absolutely.
imagine not having you as a friend. So, what a wonderful time to be in this industry, to
Yep.
be friends, and to talk to people that we really enjoy. Now, uh, like I said, personalities really play such an important part in this industry, and sometimes we don't always know the backstories. Sometimes we don't always know
Yes.
the history. Sometimes, and that maybe is part of that magic formula about this industry of why there's so much kind of joy
Oh,
and
yeah.
togetherness and community is that you get to hear these stories. For example, we had Ralph Tyndall. Um, he's maybe one of the younger crafters.
Oh, yeah.
He's just releasing on HeroArts.com. You can visit today a new fall
Yeah.
collection that follows up on a spring collection. Basically, a year ago, he wasn't in this industry, right? And so it's been great to get to know him. And then you have, our first episode with Tim Holtz. Um, and he's been in the industry. He's celebrating Distress Inc. 20 years. I mean, how can you not how can you imagine this industry without that?
Oh,
Yeah, and then go back
not
further.
possible.
Gina K, right? She was Gina K TV. I mean, she was one of the first influencers on YouTube before YouTube was really a thing
Absolutely.
that people did.
And she paved the
And
way for lives, for sure.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And we had Christina and Kathy Z talking about kind of their magic and their creative process. So maybe you've seen Christina Warner and you've seen her products, or maybe you've seen a video, but you got to talk with her and you got to see that personal
Yeah.
side. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that those experiences, meeting those people, hearing the history of your favorite brand, hearing the history of the favorite store that you might visit or talk to or shop at.
Sure.
I think that is not it's rare. It's not something you usually get in this world that does feel, especially with cell phone culture, it does feel very impersonal.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. This is a wonderful way to connect, and I think we need it. I think we need
Yes.
it.
Yeah. I also think celebrating anniversaries is very important because it gives you a sense of time. It takes that community and really grounds it in a context. And
Yep.
so it's been a lot of fun. And so I really appreciate you, Jennifer, for co-hosting these with me, and everyone in the comments. Thank you so much for indulging us talking about 50 years, because I think it crystallizes it. It makes it more real. It really solidifies kind of what's transpired in order to get all of us here as an industry, get Hero Arts here as a company.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm very appreciative. So I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to everybody for supporting that and for listening, indulging me.
Absolutely. Well, when you told me you were doing this, I was like, okay, can I be a part of this? I invited
Yes,
myself.
you did. I was like, yeah, of course. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's all right.
And I think a lot of the guests who have joined us have also said something similar. Like I had this long email to Tim, like, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of all this stuff. And he just writes back, absolutely, yes. When? Right? I mean, it's just like, I'm
Yep.
in.
Yep. Yep. It's
And
good to talk
and
about all this. It's good to talk about the heart behind it all.
yes, and there really is. There really is a
Yep.
big loving heart behind everything that we do in this industry, in this community. And we've got two additional crafty friends that we want to introduce tonight that really do bring heart and soul to everything that they do. And I'm really
Very
proud
true.
to announce that we have Michelle from Pink and Maine and Christopher from Brutus Monroe. Welcome.
Yay!
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
Excited to
friends.
Glad
be
to
here.
have you.
Yes,
This is
great
going
to
to be
see
fun.
both of you. Yes, it is. Christopher's got Halloween all ready to go. So if you weren't in the spirit yet, you are now. Look at that.
So
What a beautiful.
cool.
I know, man. I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Yes,
I have the same thing all the time.
right. Both of you really are wonderful examples of, I think, this industry from, from inspiration perspective. Christopher, with your store and all the products that you create, and Michelle with your company and kind of all the things that you create. It's if you don't know these two, then you come to the right place because this is going to be a wonderful episode where you'll get to know them. You hear their background. So thank you all for joining tonight. Of course, we have many newcomers. We also have a lot of people that I've seen in the comments before. So thank you all for joining. So let's get into this. I'm really excited to talk with both of you. Michelle, why don't you start? Tell us how you got into this industry, how you even got started in crafting, and kind of when you kind of knew, you know what, this is for me.
I've been a crafter all my life. My mom taught me to cross stitch like in the first or second grade. Um, and I'm a kid of the 80s, so I had sticker books galore. I collected stickers, stationery, erasers, all kinds
Hmm,
of fun stationery stuff. And I was always sticking stickers in my mom's photo albums, which I'm sure she didn't like, but they're full of old stickers and stuff. So I've always been kind of crafty. And growing up, I did different things. I painted those holiday villages that you could buy at the craft store and paint
Oh,
them.
yeah.
And I made one for my mom. I made a set for myself. When you ironed on and did the puffy paint on the sweatshirts, I was doing that. I've always been kind of artsy craftsy. And in
fun.
the mid to late 90s, a coworker of mine invited me to a scrapbooking like home party, and I was instantly hooked. But I wanted more than what they offered. Like I looked at it and I'm
Hmm,
like, I can do more with this. I was instantly at craft stores, like searching all kinds of patterned papers and whatever I could add to my scrapbooking, and that got me hooked. And it wasn't too long after I started scrapbooking, I'd say around 99, 2000. I got my hands, and I don't remember where I got it, but I got my hands on a stamping catalog, and that's when you get big, thick stamping catalogs.
Yep.
And I was mesmerized. I would carry it to work, and I would spend my lunch break looking through the stamps, marking the ones I wanted, just planning my orders, and I got hooked on stamping that way. And the card making, from scrapbooking to card making, was such an easy transition. And then cards were like almost instant gratification because it's a little smaller palette than a scrapbook page. And
Yep.
this was back before YouTube or anything like that. So I taught myself how to do everything. I remember buying a heat gun and an embossing powder. I knew nothing about it. Trial and error, taught myself. And when I saw that embossing powder melt, I was embossing everything. All my cards for I don't know how many months had embossing, gold embossing, silver embossing. I loved it. But that's just back when you taught yourself how to do things. And I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've
nice.
tried, I don't want to tell you how many of those direct marketing companies,
Yeah.
think Avon and jewelry, and just
Yeah.
always selling to coworkers and friends. And I tried a couple of stamp companies and just mostly did it for the fun, get stuff for myself at a discount. That was, the fun of it. But I've always just kind of had that entrepreneurial thing. I scrapbooked and sold pre made layouts online. It was really big back in the early 2000s to do that
Yeah.
on eBay, of all things.
Yeah.
And so I was selling scrapbook pages for people all over the world on eBay, and that was really fun. And it kept me, I used that money to continue my hobby. So that's kind of how I like transitioned into all that. And then um, I was using cutting files on my scrapbook pages, and I started to think, I think I could design some of my own cutting files, you know. So I taught myself to illustrate on the computer,
Mm.
and I was creating cutting files of little characters and bears, and paper piecing was a big thing then. And I was cutting out all these bears and stuff that I was designing, and I'm like, I kind of miss stamping, and some of these cutting file designs I think would make really cute stamps. So in 2014, let me just get a quick drink. Sorry, I started Pink and Main. Um, really started thinking about it in 2013, and then 2014 rolled around, and I in March I released, I think it was 10 stamp sets. My first 10 stamp sets. I illustrated them all myself. I look back and I kind of giggle at them, but they were mine. They were my babies, and I just started from there. And we just continued to slowly grow every month. And I started doing the stamp show circuit like locally. I stuck to the southeast area mostly, and grew our customer base that way as well. And we started, as we grew, I was able to introduce dies. And since I started with scrapbooking, I had to have paper. So I started designing 6x6 paper pads because I'm a paper collector.
Mm.
Still am. I love using papers on my cards, pattern papers. And then we've just grown from there. We're 10 years this year, so that's exciting. And
Woo!
I couldn't do it without all the wonderful crafters out there that continue to support us and love what we do at Pink and Main. And I love it so much. I don't consider it work. I'm literally here 7 days a week, and most of my family and friends think I'm crazy. They're like, "You need a day off," and I'm like, "What would I do? I'd rather be here. I just
Yeah.
enjoy it so much."
Yeah, we
Um,
don't think you're crazy. You're in the right group.
No.
okay,
We
I'm
understand.
with fellow people, yay. But yeah, I just love what I do, and I think when you love what you do, it's not work. And I and I started in my basement apartment, and I removed all my living room furniture. I had no living room. I had shelves of Pink and Main, and that expands to the hallway and to the office and the bedroom. And I'm like, I've got shelves of Pink and Main
Yeah.
everywhere. Um, the kitchen counters, I would pack products on the kitchen counters, the table. My grandmother would come. She lived a mile or two down the road. She would come and help me put barcodes on the back of products and package things. That was a lot of fun. And
Fun.
in 2019, I said, I'm outgrowing the basement here. So I was looking for a location, and we had a local mall that was not like a thriving mall. Malls are struggling, but
Yeah.
True.
being a child of the 80s again, I've loved the mall, and I just had this thought, what if we had a store in the mall? I mean, it was, kind of a crazy thought, but I reached out, I asked, and we got accepted, and we had a store in the mall, and I was really excited about that. We were actually in an old, what was it? The Limited,
Yep.
Mm.
too, like the younger girls'
The
clothing
kids one,
store.
yeah.
So it's kind of perfect. They had purple and pink carpet. So it went with our pink theme, and it just
Yep.
fit. I said, this is it. This is the space. So we were there for a year, and that worked out great. We did outgrow that space as well, but we moved from that was in the Atlanta area, and then we moved to Florida. And my parents actually moved down. They followed us because my sister already lived here. So they said, well, if you and your sister are going to be there, we might as well be there too. So we're all down here now, which is really nice. And we have a warehouse location in Palmetto, Florida. And it was 2020, and I wasn't going to open another retail store because it just wasn't the time.
Hmm.
with everything, you're going through with COVID and all that. So
Yeah.
I thought, let's not
Sure.
open a retail location. But once I was down here a little while, I had so many people reaching out. I live in the area, or I vacation in Florida, or I'm there half the year. Where can we come see you? Where can we come see you? And I'm like, well, maybe we should think about opening something. So in 2021, we opened up it's a small retail store in our office here, and I have lots of fun. I always try to meet everyone that comes in if I can, and I just really enjoy it. And that's kind of my little story into Pink and Main.
That's that's a
Nice.
wonderful story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, and a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
great comments. People definitely love your paper pads. You have awesome paper, both products that you
Absolutely.
sell, of
oh
course, and the
thanks.
way that you use them. It's so impressive. So,
And Michelle
yes,
and Pink and Main's dyes are all pink, which I
true.
love
Yes.
because I know which are hers. It's fantastic.
If you
And it
can't
doesn't
tell what
rub
my
off on the
favorite
paper.
color is, you don't have to look far to know what my favorite color is.
Real quick,
Right.
somebody did ask, how did you come up with the name?
I get that question a lot, and I wish I
Yep.
had like a fun, fancy story for it, but it really comes down to when you're starting a business, one important thing is to have a website be your name. You got to have a way people can find you easily. So I'm like,
Yep.
I got to have the website available that will have the name. And I wanted pink in the name because I love pink. And everything I thought I was taken, pink this, pink that, the pink this, everything was taken. And
Yep.
something just hit me. What about crossroads, like a street or downtown? So Pink and Main. So like Pink and Main Street. So that's just how I thought it had a cute ring to it. So, and the website was available. So I'm like, oh, okay, score. That'll work.
Yep.
And then another funny little thing about it is we have colored cardstock, and all the colors I pick, they have something to do with a city. So I have like the park, a green, or I have street light, yellow, things like that. Everything that's be within a city or something I thought was kind of cute.
That's really fun. Excellent. Well, thank you, Michelle, for sharing. Um, Christopher, and you've got something related to tin, but don't tell us just yet.
Yeah.
What's your background? How'd you get into this
Absolutely.
industry, and kind of what
Absolutely.
brought you into?
It's funny because it's kind of similar in ways to Michelle's story. So, hi, everybody that's out there. I see everybody saying hello in the chat, and I want to recognize so many of you that are here that followed the link and, followed, when I told you yesterday to come hang out. So, thank you so much for being here. So, I very similar to Michelle when I was little. I was super, super creative. I was constantly with my Aunt Verge doing puppy paint shirts and doing anything that could be creative, anything I could get my hands on. I was coloring or painting or doing something to quote unquote make it better was in my mind. I mean, it sometimes would become very gaudy what I was doing, but I thought that it was making it better. But the kind of the perfect segue to the Tim story, because it was when I was much younger, is I used to love the Carol Duvall show. So I guess kind of by a show of thumbs up or something in the chat, does anybody remember the Carol Duvall show? I was
Yes, for
obsessed.
sure.
I mean, I was obsessed with the Carol Duvall show, and I can remember I was probably, I don't know, probably like 11 or 12 years old, and I
Mm.
would watch the Carol Duvall show religiously every single week. I would turn on the Carol Duvall show, and I watched it didn't matter what she was doing. I mean, there were things that she, would have guests on that were doing things that I wasn't interested in, but it was crafting, so I had to stay tuned and see what was going on. And I remember very distinctly, she would always in an episode. Before she ended her episode, she would talk about what the next episode was going to bring. And generally at that point, I was, either doing homework or just fiddling around with something and wasn't paying attention. And out of nowhere, she said that there was a gentleman that was going to be on the show, and his name was Tim Holtz. And my ears perked up, my head threw up because I was like, a guy. Wait a second. There's never been a guy on Carol Duvall. There's guys that are doing this for a living. And I remember the following week was when Tim was on, and I remember he was showing. I will never forget this. He was using snowman stamp, and he was showing how to like put ink on an empty. It wasn't even an ink pad. It was like, I don't know. It was like some felt piece or something that he was putting ink on, and he was showing how you could put the ink on this piece and then put the snowman in, and it was a rubber stamp, a mounted rubber stamp, and he was showing how you could basically color the stamp without coloring the stamp. And I
Yeah.
will never forget how excited I was, because I was like, there's a guy that is doing this in this industry, and it was the coolest thing. I don't know that he appreciates when I tell the story, because I was in middle school when he was on the Carol Duvall show. So
You're
I
a baby.
I think
You're
there's
a baby.
a couple of times when he was like, "How were you in middle school?" But I mean, I just was, and I loved the Carol Duvall show. So then, kind of fast forwarding, I did a lot in between Carol Duvall and getting to where Brutus Monroe is now. But those were all jobs and careers that didn't really enlighten, I would say, becoming a CEO of a craft company. Although I think that there's a little bit that I've taken from every job that I had.
Yep.
But fast forwarding to where Brutus Monroe kind of got its start was I was very fortunate that my sister-in-law called me up and said that I was going to be having a nephew, and it would be my first nephew. And I instantly went into full creative, like, what are we doing for the cake? We need a candy bar. We need this. But I kept getting stuck on the invitations. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to call all of these different places and try to figure out that they have to be perfect. It's my first nephew. It has, everything must be perfect. And I called all these places, and they were like $12, $18 for invitations. And I was like, I love you, little guy. I mean, you're not here yet, but we're not spending $18 on an invitation for your baby shower. So I decided, I was like, you know what, I could do this. I'm creative. I've been crafty. I used to watch Tim Holtz stamp things out. I can figure out how to make a card. So I go to YouTube and I type in how to make a greeting card. And the very first person that showed up was Christina Warner.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was watching her, and I'm like, oh my Lord, she makes this look so easy. I mean, she's just dipping it in the ink and she's stamping it. And now, obviously, this was more than 10 years ago. Yeah, around 10 years ago, because Scoozy, my nephew, he just turned 10. So around 10, there weren't tons of companies. I mean, there were a lot of our steadfast companies, but a lot of us were born about 10 years ago, hence my dear friend Michelle at Pink and Main. So I was watching her use the stuff, and she was actually, I can't remember what brand she was using, but she was magnificent. And everything that she did, I held on to every word that she said, because I was like, I can do this. So I decided, because I'm impatient, at 11:30 at night, while I'm watching her do these cards, that I'm going to run to a big box store, the only one that was open at the time, and I picked up everything. I got embossing powder, I got inks, I got stamps. But unfortunately, at that store, they weren't, I guess, what I would say the highest quality of products. And I started stamping and cutting, and I was like, wait a second, this is awful. Like, why would anybody do this? Stamps are horrible. This ink doesn't stamp this. And it was, an off brand, some, super cheap $1.50 stamp. And that from that moment, I was like, wait a second, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be and so again, very similar to Michelle, I was like, I'm going to fix the industry. I mean, I had no idea at all what I was doing. I had no clue, but I was like, I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to have better things, and so on and so forth. Now, meanwhile, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue. At that point, I was a director of marketing at a healthcare company, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy things, and I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to figure out, what I'm doing. So we embossed those very first cards for Scoozy, my nephew. His real name's Joey, but we'll get into the Scoozy later. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, I did it. I got these products to work, but I have to figure out something else. So while I was working in marketing, I called probably every single company that had ink in their name. And I was like, and every single company that had rubber stamp in their name. And there were so many that I called that they were laughing. They were like, you want what? Because again, 10 years ago,
Mhm.
Hero, Aaron, you were probably number one, I would say, in rubber at that point, because there weren't a lot of people. Unfortunately,
True.
Hero Art wasn't on my short list of people to call, or else things might have been very different today. But I was calling every single person, and they were laughing at me and saying, we can't, what do you want? Do you want us to manufacture us 12 stamps for you? Like, what are you kidding? And finally, I started reaching out to some different people in the industry that were kind of YouTubey, but they were starting at that time. It was weird. There were a lot of YouTubers that were becoming company owners, and I use
Mm.
the term company owner very loosely. It was more they were getting things manufactured and selling them through YouTube. So I reached out
Ah.
and May May from May May Made It, who is just an absolute delight. She answered my call, and I said, "Who makes your stamps?" And she goes, "Oh, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "My goodness!" So they explained, how I could get started. I think I ordered maybe 48 stamps when I first started. Very much like Michelle, we printed our own inserts. I had to go to Package Hands, which was owned by Doris at the time. I don't know if any of you're probably familiar with Doris. Um,
Yeah.
and I had to like find bags and hang. It was a hot mess, but it was, and I loved everything about it. And I knew very early on that it was going to be something that I was going to do for a living. Because at the beginning, I was like, well, maybe I can pay like my gas bill with this, or maybe I can, maybe go like and do some sort of a little like weekend vacation on what I'm making from this. And very quickly, I realized that it was not going to be a hobby anymore, and it was not going to be a simple little jaunt in the look of a different career. So, what I did, and this was the biggest leap that I think I've ever taken in my life, and I would do it again 10 times over. I quit my very, very, very comfortable marketing job and I went to work at a craft store. It's a big chain craft store, but I worked there for, oh my goodness, I think it was like maybe $11 an hour, and I worked in their back room. And the whole purpose of this was I needed to figure out how retail craft worked. I could market anything with an internet, so that's what I did for a living. I could do online, but how does in store, and how does the consumer think inside of the store? And my manager at the store thought I was the best employer because I had a notebook. I was writing down everything that they did wrong, every single thing. I was like, no, we can't do that's awful. That we can't do that. Whew, that didn't go over well. So everything, because my intent was never to have a store. I always just wanted like a little space that I could bring Brutus Monroe to. So while I was working there, I was constantly taking calls and trying to figure out who can manufacture this, who can do that. I need to have inks. I need to have embossing powder. I need to have.
Wow.
I didn't need any of it. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Like I should have just stick with stamps at the beginning, but I was like, I need all of these things. So I left that job. I was only there for about a year and a couple of months, and I rented my first tiny, tiny little space that's right up the street, actually, from our buildings now. And I remember everybody. I mean, was a nervous wreck. And at that point, I still didn't really have a decided full on name. A lot of it was like Christopher Allen Stamps or Christopher Allen Designs or whatever. And I'll explain real quick how we got the name because I know that's going to be a question because it's always asked because Brutus Monroe is such a weird avant garde name. But I rescued a little min pin probably about maybe 3 or 4 years before I started Brutus Monroe. And he was, unfortunately, he was a dog fighting dog. He was a bait dog.
Mm.
And his name was already Brutus whenever I adopted him. And I gave him the middle name Monroe because I couldn't change his first name. And I just always have been infatuated with Marilyn Monroe's story and, her life and just how magnificent she was. So it was Brutus Monroe was his name. And I never thought about naming the company that. But he got sick. He became ill probably about 3 years before. Well, no, about let's say about a year before the company was really in place. And I took him to the vet, and I looked down at him, and I was like, "Wait a second, you're the strongest little son of a gun that I've ever met in my life. I have to name this company after you." I was like, "I can't name it Christopher Allen Stamps. How boring!" I mean, Christopher. Nobody knows who the heck I am. So I looked down at him, and he was, shivering and shaking in the car. And we get to the vet, and they took him back, and I was like, Brutus Monroe, I said, if you make it through this, I'm naming the company after you. I said, it just doesn't make sense not to. And he came out of that vet's office, wagging his tail with his head held up, I think 3 inches higher, as if he knew, I'm going to be fine. That you got to name the company after me now. We found out he was diabetic that day. He lived for about 4 more years, 3.5, 4 more years after that. And Brutus Monroe was just his name, and he he saved me at that time just as much as I saved him. So I think that that just, and plus the
That's
fact that
beautiful.
we're ever spending a day without him now, because everyone, I mean, we have Brutus Monroe on the building, we have Brutus Monroe on our shirts, we answer the phone, thank you for calling Brutus Monroe. So he was such a huge part of my life, and now he's with me all the time. And now fast forward 10 years later, we're celebrating 10 years in the industry, which is insane to me because I didn't think we were going to make it 10 minutes. Michelle, you probably felt the same way at times, that, what am I doing here? Like, what the heck am I a part of? But this industry, and I've said this so many times, is the best industry to be a part of. I have met so many lifelong friends in this industry. I mean, every single person that I have encountered, whether it is one of our incredible crafters or a CEO, or anybody within our industry with the different companies, have just been so incredibly kind to me. And I don't know. I guess this is an opportunity to say thank you as well to everyone
Aw.
in the industry that has been so incredible to me. Because when I started, I mean, when you start in an industry, or you start even a new job, you're like, are people going to like me? I mean, is this okay? Like, is anybody going to want to eat with me at the lunch table? And I can tell you that there's not a single person in this industry that has not saved me a seat at the table. And that is heartwarming. And I know that this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm hoping for 10 more years. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Such a great story. No, I love
10
all of
years.
that, and congratulations to both of you on 10 years.
Thank you.
It's not
Well,
the amount of
congratulations
time. I
on
think
50. My goodness.
yeah. It's not necessarily the amount of time though. I think it's the kind of the passion that really you put into
Yep.
both of you, into kind of your businesses and your stories, and really, again, because we brought up Tim Holtz, I'm going to quote him. Just, it's just beautiful to watch both of you doing you,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's why this industry is so wonderful, is that people don't judge, although I guess there could be people who do, but I don't think so. I think that that's what this industry is about, is the differences that we have amongst each other is the creativity and the innovation and the change and the inspiring parts. Even if I don't want to repeat a technique that Jennifer might do, I am still inspired to see the creativity that she brings. And so to hear both of you talk about that, I think it's just wonderful. So, Michelle, you did have a retail store, and you
Hmm.
decided not to kind of continue that. So, how did you kind of go from the idea that maybe retailing was going to be the way you wanted to go to, you know what? I mean, obviously, you mentioned COVID and things like that, but like going into kind of designing more products and designing kind of the all the tools that you use on your in your education on your YouTube channels. Like, how did that process of getting into designing all the various things go for you?
It's just kind of a natural progression. I'm sure Christopher feels the same way as he mentioned. Like, you start doing stamps, and then you want dyes, and then you want papers, and you want embossing powders, and you want, all the things that go with it, and you want to have that whole collection of everything. And sometimes I have to slow myself down. Like, Michelle, are you sure we should do this? And I probably overthink everything that we release. Is this, like you said, are people going to like it? Is it ever, but I try to release things that I enjoy. And if I can't get behind it and I don't like it, then I just can't release it, because if you
Mm,
can't stand behind something, you just shouldn't do it. So I love everything that we release, as one should. But I loved having a retail store. um, my favorite thing about having the retail store, and it's probably not good for the work I need to get done behind the scenes, but I love meeting people, and I love sharing the same joy and passion about this hobby with others. So I'm the first one to, like, leave my desk. Oh, someone came to the door. Let me go say hello.
mm,
And like I said, it's probably not good sometimes for the things I need to get done behind the scenes, but I love meeting people, and that's the one thing about the retail store that I love. And we have a small store here in our warehouse, And I'd really love to expand that just so that I can get more people in here, maybe have classes more often and things like that. But I just love sharing this with other people. I love to share a technique, and when you see their face that, oh my gosh, I can do that too, and look how easy it is, and it's just, it brings joy to me. It's really a fun thing. So I do really like having a retail store and just the experience of meeting people in person. And try to do lots of videos and stuff online and on YouTube, but it's just not the same as like a personal
True.
interaction in person. So, but I
Yeah.
do like sharing the joy of making things with my hands. And I like to show people too, because I'll just say real quickly, I have a form of muscular dystrophy, so I get around in a wheelchair, and I have since I was 12, and it's just part of my life. But my arms, my hands are weak, and I like to show people too that you can do this no matter what challenges or difficulties that you have. There's something in this hobby that you can do, and my tagline for the Pink and Mane is living the creative life. And that came from me living creatively my entire life, not just doing creative things, but finding a creative way to do stuff that everyone else does. And we all do that. We all find our own way to do things in life. So it's kind of where my living the creative life came from. It's not just crafty creative, but also just thinking creatively in doing things that we do every day. So that's just a
Right.
little bit of more about me and how much I love, sharing this. And you asked
Right.
about the retail store, so, and I went on and
No,
on.
that's great. No, it's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that.
Hmm.
And I think I'm with you on meeting people and really kind of
Hmm.
sharing unique aspects. Sometimes people call here and say, I know it's probably trouble, but is there any chance I can get a tour or, come visit you? And I'm always like, that's my favorite part of the day when people ask. Like,
Yeah.
I love meeting people. So I do think that it's kind of a part of kind of the innovative spirit too. Is yeah, I think lives are wonderful. This is such a wonderful setting that get to talk all
Hmm.
together here with everyone. But there also is that beautiful aspect of seeing people in person. So I just love receiving people, going to shows, and the same. So I share that with you. And let me also just go back
Hmm.
in your story. You mentioned kind of those big stamping catalogs. I saw on your profile that 1996 is when you started. This is the Hero Arts 1996 catalog, and if you notice, like, I mean, that's a look at that,
Oh, yeah. Used to love
125
looking through
pages.
those things, and mine
Yeah,
were all marked up.
yeah. It's all woodblock stamps back then in 1996, of course. But I mean, look at the
Hmm.
quality back then. Like we had like fly sheets, right, and big beautiful
Oh, wow, yeah.
photos. I mean, it's like it was a different era for sure. So when you mentioned those catalogs that you'd look through,
Oh, yeah.
that was really that kind of era of big catalogs because there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't
Right.
all of your wonderful videos out there to showing people how to do the various techniques or use the products. In fact, the catalogs were that method. And not till the 2000s, not till Christopher, you know, you youngins. No, just kidding. You,
Babies. Babies.
yeah, started. There's just so much. There's so much. If you fast forward to even 2010, YouTube had so much when Lawn Fawn started. For example, you had so much content. You had so much beauty that is available on YouTube and online. I'm going to come to you in a second, Christopher, about that same thing because of your retail store. But let me just say one last plug to partnership. And that is we recently had a party here, a party event at Hero Arts. And it was beautiful to see everybody. And I really appreciate everybody who came who was local. But in addition, like Lawn Fawn, Conquer the Ninth, Gina K, Alt News, Scrapbook.com gave us products that we could give away. I mean, what industry where you have, again, competitors, not really friends, giving away products and sharing in the celebrations of the companies in the industry. It's such a beautiful place. So I love that aspect. So Christopher, so why for you you make beautiful products. You also make products for other people, but you also have the hard work every day of running a retail store. Kind of what sounds like your history of working in a retail store is why you really drew that passion. But how's that been 10 years on now?
Well, the retail space only really started for us about 5 years ago, and
Okay.
I think the for me it's again meeting folks, but it was more so that the YouTube side of things really started to take off for me because my start was actually with cutting machines. I started with Cricut. Was actually how I got my start on YouTube, and everybody was once we started moving towards the more papercraft card side of things, everybody kind of wanted a destination. They were like, where
Yeah.
can we come to see the product, where can we, because when I worked for that big box store, I wanted nothing to do with retail. I didn't want to be in their store, I didn't want to have a store, I didn't it was a nightmare. So I said no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. But then we called our place the studio store just simply because we our studio was in the building, and our studio was much different than it is right now. Obviously, we started with about 1,000 square feet, and now we have about 18,000 square feet. So the studio was literally in the store. So we were like, well, I guess we have to call it the studio store because when people walk in, they're going to see the studio. And it just kind of evolved from that. We had a woman not that long ago that joked that we were kind of the Hard Rock Cafe of crafts, because we always see people that are passing through. So it's like we were a destination. Like, well, we have to stop at Brutus Road. Like when you go to Myrtle Beach, you stop at the Hard Rock Cafe because it's there, and you know that it's you know what you're getting. So on the way, like we had a woman today that was traveling from Kansas. She stopped in. I think yesterday it was Chicago. So generally, we have folks that we become kind of a destination to where they're going, which is great because I love meeting so many of the people, and I love feedback. Feedback is probably one of my favorite things in the world, and I think that if you can take feedback and listen, that makes you a really really great leader or CEO. And I'm obsessed with feedback, and there's no better feedback that you can get than when somebody is in your store picking something up and is like, oh, why the heck did you do that? Or what is that color? Or what did you? And I'm like, okay, I will take all of this information back with me. But it's great. I mean, it's literally because there are some times that you release a product and you have no idea. I mean, the retailers have it, and your crafters are ordering it, but you just don't know. So to have someone right there on the spot say, oh, that was a little rough of a release. I'm like, okay, well now I know, what we should do in the future. But I love getting that candid and immediate feedback about our releases and what we're doing. So that's why
That's
I love.
great.
Yeah, I love the store. Yep.
Yeah.
Can
So
I
if you're
just
ever
say I'm
go on,
sorry. I
please.
just want to say one of my bucket list items is to come see Christopher's store. I don't know if you've seen pictures of his store online, but that is one beautiful craft store. You have
Look
done an
behind them.
outstanding
I
job with
appreciate
your
it.
store just from what I've seen
Well,
online.
I
I
didn't want
definitely
it
got to
to
get
look.
up there one day.
Please,
Same.
let's try December during the anniversary party. I want all my friends here. But the idea and the design behind the craft store, and we've been called many times the anthropology of crafts, which I
Mhm.
chef's kiss. I absolutely love that because I love anthropology
Yeah.
style and the way that they do things.
Beautiful.
I didn't want it to look like a craft store. And when we started building it out, because when I first took over this building and this space, there was nothing. I mean, it was completely there was nothing in the building except for an antique post office facade that was here when they left it. The previous owners were going to do all sorts of stuff with it. So I built everything around that vintage facade and had it completely restored. And we have these really really cool lights. I mean, you have to if you go to the studio store, our Facebook page, you'll be able to see a lot of that. But I also knew that at some point I'd want to expand. So I knew that we would need more space, and that's when we opened our candy store. So that was new this year, and it's
Yeah.
been. I mean, who doesn't love gummy bears and rubber stamps? I mean, get out of here! It's the best combination ever.
So, what is the candy store called?
It's called Scoozies. So my nephew, who I mentioned, that got me into this whole
Yeah.
madness of crafting. When he was little, he was probably about like 3 or 4. He couldn't say excuse me. So I said
Oh,
I was probably telling someone in the house, excuse me, because I was trying to get past, and he just kept saying Scoozy, and he
Perfect.
couldn't figure out how to say excuse me. So I've called him Scoozy since he was very, very little. And then his sister, who's much younger, they were both born on the same day. I named she's Mini Scoozy. So it's funny because it's somehow they know which Scoozy I'm calling when I say Scoozy, but I named things after things that I love.
Aw.
So I named Brutus Monroe after my best bud, my pup, and I named the candy store after my Scoozies. And I can tell you that they brag just as much as Brutus Monroe did with his head held high, having a company named after them, because they actually just what my sister-in-law just reached out. We were playing video game the other night, and she was like, can we do some Scoozies candy for their goodie bags for their birthday? I said, I mean, that's the coolest thing ever, to have your own
Yeah.
candy in your goodie bag at your birthday party. So they love it, and they cut the ribbon. We cut the ribbon on their it was about a couple of months ago. I think May is when the grand opening was, but
Yeah.
it's just fun. I mean, I have fun. I mean, it's like, I love being here. Like Aaron said, I love being at work, and I love, being in. Michelle said the same thing. I love candy and crafts. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
So
yeah.
everybody's asking, what is the anniversary weekend? What's the date?
Oh, I have to look it up. Hold on. If there's anybody that works at Brutus Monroe that's in the chat, if you could find it quicker than I can,
I
because
love
I'm
it.
sure they'll be much better than I am at it.
Yeah, that's
I'll
okay.
ask while you're looking that up. How many times have you been called Brutus?
At
Yeah.
least 5 times a week.
I know him well and I still do it. I still do
Saturday
it.
the 7th. Saturday the 7th.
Saturday the 7th. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
get
So
called Brutus constantly.
if you're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, definitely visit Christopher at Brutus Monroe. And if you're specifically in that area, December 7th, you get to celebrate 10 years with Christopher and the staff. That's pretty wonderful. I,
Yeah.
I, I definitely have that on my list. I remember the days, being in California where we had Stampa Barbara, which, back then they didn't make their own stamps as much as carried so many others. And they had 150,000 designs of woodblock rubber stamps on their shelves. Just think about how heavy that would be. But
Wow.
beyond that, there was destination stores, Stampa Rosa,
Yeah.
so many great stores back in the day. And so this is a destination store that you can visit because there's just fewer stores now. In 2000, there were 6,000 independent stores that carried crafting supplies. Because of Amazon and a lot of the rise of e-commerce, there's about 600 in the U.S. So I strongly encourage, if you get a chance, visit your local store, shop at your local store, and if you're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, visit Christopher and Brutus Monroe. That's a really fun story, and I do think that retail is challenging for a lot of people. But I could just hear it in your story, Christopher, that it does feel like you've got a passion for it. You've got a passion for kind of the way it looks, the way that it's styled, the way that it feels, the experience with the candy store being a part of that. We in Hanging with Hero, we've joked a few times. I think with Christina and Kathy Z, or maybe Jen Shurkis, that we should rename this, crafty cocktail chat. But you could easily do crafty candy, as we could also do that. That would be fun as well. Yeah, I'm excited for your celebration. Michelle, do you plan
Yeah.
to do anything special for your 10 years?
We were 10 in March, and we kind of celebrated for a while with some Instagram hops and blog hops and things like that. And I would just celebrate every day, doing what we do. So, yeah, it's just, but
Michelle,
nothing
how
other
many
than
years
that.
ago was it that we met I think we met at Stampaway for the first time, didn't we?
The first time we met was at CHA, the
Was it? Okay.
industry trade show
Yep.
in LA.
Look at that.
That I have a
We're
picture.
babies. Oh
I
my
think that was
goodness.
2016, 17,
But
something.
then I'd see you at the Stampaways too. And
Yes, when we did the stamp show circuit, we would go the furthest show away we would do was Stampaway in Ohio because
yep,
we
it's
were
right by
located
me.
in Atlanta area and we would drive all day to get to Ohio
Yeah.
and we did Stampaway for quite a few years.
And I would get
Mm.
there
And
and I'd want to find your booth because it was like a
oh, well,
happy,
thank you.
happy place to
Team
be. It was always
cheerful
good to
booth,
see
yeah.
you. Yeah,
I
for
love doing the
sure.
shows too. That's the other thing about meeting people is traveling and doing the shows. You get to meet a lot of people, all
Right?
at one time when you're doing the shows. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
And my first introduction to Hero Arts was, I don't know if you remember the name of the store. It's a big stamp store in Orlando, Florida. It was on Orange Blossom Trail. I cannot remember the name of it, but they had tables and tables of Hero Arts wood stamps. That's where I first remember really seeing
Crap.
Hero Arts. It was a big
Could it
stamp
be?
store. That was back before you had scrapbooking stores starting to pop up, but they didn't carry
Yeah.
stamps. You had to go to stamp stores to get stamps. We had a big
Yeah.
one in Orlando that I
It could be
remember.
called crafts and scraps.
Maybe.
That,
I can't remember the
yeah.
name.
I do think that
Yeah.
there was that separation in the 90s, early 2000s, where
Hmm.
scrapbook stores generally did not carry stamps. There was some kind of negative connotation with stamps in your scrapbook page that we've talked about on these shows, which I thought was interesting, which
Yeah.
is why Jennifer and I met, because I was like, Jennifer, I need some help. You don't know me, but I run a stamp
Yeah.
store and I mean a stamp company, and no one who scrapbooks wants to use stamps in their scrapbooks. And so we came up with the idea, is actually Jennifer's idea, to use uh, kind of the idea of card making as a kind of add-on to your scrapbook page. If you're going to design your scrapbook page, why don't you also design a card? Because the scrapbook page is for you and the card's for somebody else. And it was just that different style of giving, and that's how we kind of broke in. And then you started seeing scrapbook stores that would carry stamps like Archivers.
Hmm.
Archivers had a huge stamp section in their store. And yeah, those were interesting days when we were trying to figure that kind of that part out, because scrapbookers did seem a little different. Scrapbookers didn't seem to want to use stamps, and there wasn't, uh, the kind of same understanding that no stamps can be
Yep.
very creative
Hmm.
in your kind of your scrapbook tool set. Fun. All right. Well, thank you all for joining, everybody. It's really fun to have you all. We're not finished, but I do want to really appreciate each one of you. Thank you always for joining. I mean, how great is this industry to have 750 people join us on a Wednesday evening to talk about the industry, to talk about all the things that we enjoy and love so much, and to have all the wonderful comments. Really appreciate that. We have, as a part of Hanging with Hero, we've been doing a 1 day, 24-hour flash sale, 50% off one category of our site, and we are doing fall favorites.
Yes.
That is 50% off starting now till 5 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. And so it's all of our favorite fall, Thanksgiving, and even some Halloween if it's not too late. Uh, Products from our product line. It's one of the most enjoyable seasons, I think, to design for. My wife Laura and her design team, Robin, Ron, and Manami, just love designing fall. And in fact, in our poll for your favorite card kit of the year, of the last 12 months, actually the Halloween September one, and that's like the most fun. I think that's the one that we're always worried about, because we're like, okay, we love Halloween. It is so inspiring and so much fun to design. And one of our designers, Ron, would design, like bloody zombies every time that he could, because he just loves zombies. But we generally don't. We're like, yeah, but Halloween's got such a short window. But we just went for it this year, and we're kind of really excited. And the design team, particularly, are really excited that everybody picked September. um, So
So
yeah,
which one
so
won? Did
the
you know?
yeah, the September
The
September
September
card
did
kit.
the Halloween one. Yeah, it was good. It
Yeah,
was good. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It
Love
was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Halloween.
Yeah, so that 50% off is just a way to thank all of you for joining
Yes.
the and for supporting the industry. And we also have giveaways. We want to honor people who have joined us tonight, and we have kind of a series of people that we pick from the comments to give giveaways to. So Mike will share the image. Congratulations to
There
all
we
of the
go.
winners. We have Hero Arts gift cards where you get $50 off
Ooh.
to celebrate 50 years. Plus, you give $25 gift card to a friend as well. Congratulations on those. We also have scrapbook.com and Ranger who have each given away $50. And generously, Pink and Main, Michelle is giving away $100, and Christopher from
Look at
Brutus Monroe is
that.
also giving away $100. So that's really exciting. And by the way, I appreciate all of you being here live. But if anyone couldn't watch it live, and because some people don't get home in time, etc., we also, over the next 48 hours, we also do two more giveaways to people who make comments in the replay notes and replay comments.
Wow.
So that's just a way to thank everybody for joining and being kind of so creative and sharing your thoughts, because we really appreciate that as we're doing these, and we try to get as many questions from you as possible. um, so Michelle, what do you have planned for, I don't know, your next release or next year, or do you have any thoughts about kind of what you're going to put out? And even maybe more to the point, how do you get your inspiration? Like, how do you come up with your ideas that really kind of generate new releases, your pink dyes,
Hmm.
your collections that you put out? Like, what inspires you? What do you look to get that inspiration? And kind of, what's that process that helps you put out new products?
I get inspiration from a lot of places. I can look around a lot of different places and get inspiration. Um, I'm not one particular thing I can think of. Just from everything: patterns, wallpapers, carpets, designs, architecture. I took a trip to Washington, D.C. when I was younger with my aunt, and I was taking pictures of all the buildings, just odd angles. And I love the architecture, the old architecture, beautiful things that we don't create those anymore in buildings. I don't see, but so I just find it everywhere. Um,
Nice.
Coming up, we just had a release for October, which is kind of woodsy and animal themed, camping, outdoorsy, which is fun. And then November, we do a winter release. So we've got some really cute stuff for winter that's coming up. And then I got some things planned for later that I'll just say I won't let the cat out of the bag, we'll say. I don't know. I'll just do my little funny thing.
Love
I
it.
think
Okay,
Mike has,
great.
hold on. Mike has some pictures, right? From
Yes.
Pink and Maine. Hold on.
Well,
We
I
got
think
some
I can
Ooh,
share
pictures.
some pictures.
Look at
That
that.
That was our
wow.
store in the mall. We had a 4,000 square foot store. Like I said, it was a limited too, so it had like that pink and purple carpet that just went with our colors very, very well. And for this girl that spent my teenage years in the mall, that was like a dream come true. I mean, a store in a mall, like you just couldn't believe it, but it worked out for us, and we had lots of fun there.
Look at that.
And that's our little shop in our warehouse. So we're in Palmetto, Florida. We're on the Gulf Coast. We're in between St. Petersburg and Bradenton, I would say, just south of Tampa.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, and I
Is
just
that your
I
first
shared
booth?
that. That's like one of our first trade show booths. I was really
Wow.
scared to give it a try, but so I went with like just the smallest entry level thing you could do, and did lots of card samples. And then I think I shared a picture too of, so that was like maybe 2016, 2017. And then another one I shared is 2022. We did the NAMTA Creativation trade show, and
Yeah.
that booth, just to show kind of the how far you come. Sometimes that booth won like the best small booth of the show.
That was the
So
best booth ever.
was really proud of
I
that.
remember
It was
running over and giving you a hug, and I was like, "Look at you!"
I have to
that's
give all the
awesome.
credit to my pal Taylor that worked with us at the time. She designed that entire booth, and her dad actually built it. She and her dad, and
Wow.
Fun.
I have to give her all the credit because she came up with the design, and I loved it. I
It's
really loved what
gorgeous.
she did, and she pulled it all
Yeah.
together for us.
Beautiful.
Oh, I forgot I shared that one. That's the first stamp set I illustrated for Pink and Maine. It was called What a Hoot.
Aw,
Those were
that's
my little
cute.
owls. One of my first stamp sets I illustrated. Just thought it'd be fun to show.
That is a hoot. Do you
That's
still have
great.
that stamp set?
It's no longer available. We've retired it. You
Hmm.
can't hold on to all the good stuff forever, but
True.
that was one of the first ones. That was really fun.
Nice. And for those of you who don't know, CHA, Creativation, NAMTA are kind of all the same thing. They're trade shows that retailers, wholesale trade shows, that retailers come to visit vendors. And they're a lot of fun because they're also community based. Maybe not as fun as end user shows because there's not quite the same fanfare. It's more business, but it's still wonderful to kind of hang out and see everybody, go out for drinks, go out for dinner. Kind of
They're
share those
exhausting.
moments. Yeah, they're exhausting.
I mean, you don't stop from the second you get there to the second you leave.
So true.
It's
You're on your feet all
exhausting.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beyond. Oh,
yeah.
So
Well,
somebody asked in the comments for Michelle and Christopher, do you still make time to create cards for your friends? Yeah.
no. I mean, I always say that it'll be very hard for you to receive a cake from a baker. So it's
That's what I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say that.
when you do it for a living. I mean, and the thing is, like, there are some times that you will take time to make something very special for something that's but when it's your job, it's hard to muster up, I guess, additional creativity on top of the creativity that you're already outpouring with the releases and things like that. I mean, I do have some that I'll keep aside, but it's I can tell you that it's if you receive a card from me, it is an extremely, extremely special occasion because there's not enough time in the day sometimes. How about you,
Yeah.
Michelle?
The cards I make are the ones you see in the videos,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they go on display, or I
Yeah.
send them to stores that need them for samples. And
For sure.
I am the worst one when my family's birthdays come around and they're like, "You're the card maker and you don't have a card for me?" I'm like, oh. Or I'll pull together one. It kind of says thank you or something, thinking of you. I'm like, this is what I have,
Good
for
enough.
birthday.
Good enough.
Like,
My
yeah,
brother's
yeah.
sitting here, and when you said you don't have a birthday card for family, he's pointing at me because no, like no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just this is what we do for a living. So I'd
that's
rather give cards to people like not in my family. I don't know. Keep it separate. I don't know what it is. Deborah asked, how many employees do your companies support? I mean, you guys are small, but people need to remember, we talk about this as an industry and these as companies, but these are small businesses. These are true mom and pop shops. So people asked how many people work at Brutus Monroe and Pink and Maine.
We have 11, including me.
That's a lot.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we have 9, including me. So
That's a lot too.
and when I
Yeah.
started, I never imagined I would be a boss. I never
No.
thought of Pink and Maine. I would be a boss of people. Never thought of that. Never crossed my mind. I thought I'd be there packing up orders by myself the entire time. And I'm really proud of the fact that I have employees, and
Yeah.
you know, they come in and they do a wonderful job for me, and I appreciate them. I really do. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you remember
And
thinking back, Michelle, like when you first started ever thinking about having an employee? Yeah.
No, and it's funny, my first employee was my mom. My
I,
mom retired and she wanted something to do, so and she still works part-time for us.
Mhm.
She comes in every day, works half a day. That's what she wants to do.
I love your
So if
mom.
you
I love her.
order from us, you might get if your order is stamped by Denise, that's my mom. She packed your order and she packs them
Aw.
all with love. She really loves working here. So, and that's really fun to have her here too.
I
Yeah,
think
that is
she's
that
great.
one of the things people forget is these small businesses when there's like 9 employees. That is like a big deal to employ those people. That's a big deal, and that's another reason why supporting these small businesses is important because you're supporting those other few people too. So
Mhm.
that's exciting. That's exciting.
it's a lot.
Yes.
It's to be responsible for other people is, I think, probably one of the greatest gifts we can have as owners of small companies, to be able to say that we can help to
Yeah.
support them as well. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I know probably, Michelle, you feel the same way whenever you sometimes have to step back, is what I say all the time. I'm like, sometimes you get so caught up in all of it and you get so caught up in being a part of the company or owning the company, that sometimes you just have to sit back and be like, wow, these people trust me. These people trust that this
Exactly.
company and what I'm doing is going to be beneficial to them and be sustainable for them. So there's not only quite a bit of pressure there, but there's also such a reward that you're like, these people trust me enough that I'm going to be able to lead this company and bring things to the industry that people are going to like, that they're hanging out with me. Because I never say that I have a staff. I have friends and peers is who I have. I
Yeah.
don't like that whole
A
like
team.
subordinate thing and stuff. Like, I don't like that. I love having people that I work with, because I do every day, every single week, I try to work in every department that we have, whether it's fulfillment or in the laser area or manufacturing or the retail store, because I feel like that's the best part of my gig that I have, that I can go and do all these different things every day. It's like I don't have just
Right.
one job. I could do so much. And I'm sure Aaron and Michelle, you're the same way, that you like to just go see what's going on and hang out and do those types of things.
Right. For sure. I think that's really well said. People have asked how many employees Hero Arts has, and I have to say, before I answer that I definitely echo what you're saying, Christopher and Michelle, because I think it's such a wonderful thing to run a company and be kind of in it together. It's like a family, and that's the way that we've always thought of our employees at Hero Arts, starting with, of course, my mom founding it. And then I was, 8 or 9 years old, and I was helping her run rubber sometimes. And, because it was more like a game. It was more like fun. She wasn't sure if she was going to start a business. And when she got her
Right.
first employee, she actually worked in my mom's bedroom. Right. I mean, so they were friends, uh, they were close, and, very quickly we had to moved to the garage, to a new place that my mom rented, and we moved into a garage, and we had 3 employees and then 7. And as you add employees, they become family members. Like, one of our employees was with us 45 years before he
That's
retired.
Wow.
I
amazing.
mean, just amazing to have someone give their career, their love, their passion,
Hmm.
their creativity to what you do. And so Hero Arts has gone over time. At one point in the heyday, when we were making stamps for Stampin' Up, when we were
Mm.
making stamps for many other companies too, we had 120 employees. We were
Wow.
a big small company,
Yeah.
for sure. And I mean, over the years, my sister's worked for us. My brother still does. Obviously, my wife and I run the company together. My daughter, my son has worked here. The 2 of the design team members, Ron and Robin, are brothers. They're twins, in fact.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I met them in CHA, I believe.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And we actually asked Robin one time, if we could just clone you, it'd be perfect. And he's like,
yeah.
well.
Bingo.
I have a twin.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah. And another design team member, Manami, is actually also has twins in the family, right? And so it's all family. So Today we have about 45 employees because, industries change, things go up and down, you automate things. We used to make woodblock stamps, which took a lot of assembly, and now we mostly do clear, which takes less. And, so I think it's very common over 50 years to kind of go up and down and change with the times. And I think that probably as entrepreneurs yourselves, you guys can understand this. You too, Jennifer.
Mhm.
You have to reinvent yourself all the time.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
Mhm.
And for me, what drives kind of a passion is definitely, yeah, I want to be sure that I honor all the people who honor me every day in their job. And it's pressure packed, and it's stressful, and it's also just kind of a wonderful way to share the
Honor.
day. Yeah, with your employees. If you do come for a tour at Hero Arts, you can see many of the kind of people who have worked for us. The average tenure today of people working at Hero Arts is 17 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list now to come and visit Hero Arts.
Okay.
Well, you know what? It seems like every week we do one of these Hanging with Heroes, we plan a road trip.
Yeah.
So last week it was Dana and Pam. So just come along. We're going to do this tour
Yes.
to Hero Arts.
Try to just get a Winnebago and just hit them all while spend a month.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes,
Well, Dana and
absolutely.
Pam are down here, so we could
Yes.
start down here with the
See?
three of us and just head on up. We could head
And we
on
can
up
go to
to
Disney.
Pittsburgh. Then
It's
we'll
a woodland.
scoot on over. We'll pick you up in Ohio.
Yeah,
Hey,
go
we'll
to
start
Wisconsin, see
at Disney.
Gina.
Yes, see?
Oh, yeah.
We can do it all. We can do it all.
Hit Utah to get Greg from Conquer the Night.
Yep.
Hit Hero
Yeah.
Arts, and
And Christina,
down to get
yeah.
Kelly, lawn
Christina,
fun in
yep.
LA. Yeah, we'll just keep it going. But first, let's all go visit you, Christopher, on December 7th for your
Yeah.
I'd
event.
appreciate
That's the
that,
next
yeah.
one coming up. Yeah, so Christopher, how do you? Because you've talked about all your ideas, all the things that you want to do, just like Michelle. But I want to do embossing pattern, I want to do sparkle,
Yeah.
I want to do ink. So how do you narrow it down? How do you find kind of your creative edge to be sure you
Yeah.
don't make way too much stuff?
I
But
think the
you,
problem is I don't narrow it down that often. I think that's the. I mean, with this year we've probably narrowed it down the most, only because we started to run out of space. So we just recently acquired the building next door to us as well. So we've been able to do a little bit more with space and things like, because I mean, when you manufacture your own things, that's great. But when you have other people manufacture things for you, those MOQs, as you know, are not small. So, you can't get, you can manufacture something for yourself and scale that back, but there are some things that you have to buy 1,000 of, or 2,000 of, or 4,000 of.
True.
So I tried to scale back a little bit in the respect of the things that we are releasing. But for me, my inspiration comes from everything. And like Michelle said, I mean, I take pictures of drapery panels. I'll be at TJ Maxx or Marshalls or something like that, and I'm taking pictures. My problem is I love 3D objects, and obviously our stamp sets do not work in 3D. So my poor illustrators, they're constantly like, you want this that is a 3D tangible object to become a stamp. And that's probably the most difficult thing that we work with. But we've been able to play around with perspectives and things like that to make things 3D come to life off the page. But it's hard, because how do you choose? With Halloween, which is our absolute favorite holiday here at Brutus Monroe, and we do so much Halloween. When you were saying that you were like, we were going to go for it with Halloween stuff, I'm like, oh my Lord, I go like every year, I'm like, let's release 40 products that are just different colors of glitter for Halloween, because I just love the Halloween, time, and I love the pumpkins and all of that. So we scale back a little
Yeah.
bit on that, but it's hard. It's hard when you go out and and I'm sure that all three of you, your brains work very similar to mine, that you can see something so simple that nobody else cares about. They look at it and they're like, what, really, a shutter? But we look at, a shutter on a house, and we see pattern, and we see color, and we see a way that can be dynamically used in our industry. And, it's wild. My late husband, Rob, we would be driving, and I would see a mailbox, and it would be the shade on the mailbox or the font that was on the, and it's like we can't turn our brains off. I love the color and I love the font of the numbers that were on it, and he would look at me like, what, it's blue and the numbers look like Arial. I'm like, absolutely not. That is cerulean, and that is a, that is the most magnificent font that I've ever seen. And he would look at me like I was bonkers. But that's how the greatest things come to our industry, is when we look at things in a very different way. And our job is to look at those things and transpose them into something that you can use every day. And I think when you hit that just the right way, that is when your company will bloom. And I think that's kind of where we're all at right now.
Yeah. Well said.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Christopher is one of the reasons I got through the COVID time, because when the first Christmas of COVID hit, we would text each other ornaments and
Oh, yeah.
Christmas decorations.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I totally decked out my house that year
Yeah.
because of the messages we would text back and forth. So, these friendships.
I did too. Yeah. She
Yeah.
would send me, she was like, this one or this one. I'm like, why not both? She's like, okay,
Okay.
she's like, this is, you're a terrible influence. She's like, I ordered them both. But
Yes.
we definitely bonded over quite a few horrible Christmas decorations too. If you remember, I
Absolutely.
think I sent you a Santa Claus toilet bowl cover. And
Yes.
we said, this is where we're drawing the line. This is
Yeah.
where we're,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes the inspiration's not so great, but
yeah.
That's a good question, actually, because Dana and Pam were talking about last week that they help each other kind of check things and be honest with each other. So how do you draw the line and only stop at making the things at the end of the day that you finally put out? Like, Michelle, how do you edit yourself? How do you be sure that that's kind of a harebrained idea? Am I wrong to think this is good, or like do you have a
You know,
process that helps
it
eliminate
usually
things?
it usually works out, Aaron, that the stuff I'm not so sure about is the stuff that everyone else loves. And then sometimes the things I love just sit and I'm like, what is wrong with people?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard to limit. Sometimes, I've had artwork, and I don't illustrate my stamp sets anymore per se. I work with a lot of artists, and sometimes I get artwork and I have to hold on to it for another year. I'm like, I have so much Christmas. Can I really do all this Christmas this year? I'm like, oh, you're so cute, but you have to wait till next year, so you do have to limit yourself, but it is really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after doing this for 10 years, it's also hard sometimes to go to artists and go, okay, I need some Christmas. I've done bears, I've done elves. We did Santas, and
Yeah.
the themes, sometimes, but then it just usually always works out. I think of something clicks, you see something else, you're like, okay, let's go with that. But 10 years of Christmas seasons or 10 years of Halloween, it is hard to, it's hard to think of new themes and new things, but it always works out, and everyone always comes out with new stuff, and you're like, oh wow, look, we did change up Christmas again a little bit. So it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun to do that too.
Yeah. I'm with you. What about you, Christopher? Who it sounds like Jennifer isn't encouraging at reducing the thing. So who do you use to kind of edit?
I really just use my peers. Honestly, I mean, I think Michelle and I have had many conversations about,
That's
should
great.
we do this? Should we do that? What do you think about this? And it's funny because Michelle and I, we have a very unique relationship where we will literally, for a long time, we will just text each other and say, "Do you have a minute? Do you have a second to chat?" Till finally, just about a year ago, I was like, "Michelle, just call me." I was like, "We're way past the 'Do you have a minute?' Just call." So I think that in the industry is where I reach out the most. I mean, I talk to my dear sweet Gina Kay. I mean, she's been my crafty therapist, I think, for longer than I can remember. And I just reach out and I'll, send pictures or send, like, Greg at Concord Ninth, I'll send him a picture and I'll be like, what is the, ugh, and I'll be like, I just need an honest opinion about things, because my crew here they're wonderful. They love everything. They're like, I think that's going to be awesome. That's really cool. But I think that if you have friends in the industry, which again I have been so fortunate to have, you can reach out and say, hey, like this is what I'm doing. Do you think this is great? Like with the stick and stamp mat, I literally, I stole Jennifer's idea. I mean, Jennifer was cutting up old cricket mats and putting them in the Misty, and I was like, I remember the text message. I reached out to her. I was like, do you think that I could make something that would be what you were cutting up, but that people would actually use in the Misty? And I will never. She was like, absolutely. She was like, what? It should be made
Please,
a month ago. Why are you waiting? And
please.
thousands of those since then, and it's one of my favorite products because we have also done dual branding. I mean, I think we've done 7 dual
Yeah.
brandings with it, where we've been able to just hang out. Now that we don't have any right now, so please, they're cut. We have a 10-year anniversary edition coming, so don't come for me when you can't buy it right now. They are completely sold out. But there's a lot of other brands that carry them that have the Brutus Monroe and the other brands branding on, and I think that's so cool and so important because we're not knocking each other off. We're taking those ideas and we're supporting and uplifting each other. But to answer, I reach out to my peers in the industry and they'll say, "Ugh," and I'll be like, "Okay, never mind, done. Thank goodness
Yeah.
I send the PO. We're not going to do it." So it's
Yes.
having good friends in our industry that really help with that, I think.
And you need friends. You need friends
Oh yeah.
like that. And I have to say that there's a lot of great ones talking about kind of the theme of this episode is definitely kind of
Mm.
friendship in this community. And I have to say that I rely on Gina K
Mm.
for my therapy as well. She's great
Same.
at it. Yeah, and so many others. And Jennifer, and I'm going to start calling on both of you too because you both sound really
Yeah.
good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. And speaking about a sale, Christopher, you have a special sale you want to announce?
Oh
What?
yes, so everyone that is here with us tonight, we have a promo. It's 25% off of your total order, and
Oh.
the sale is Hero Monroe. So it's Agromonroe. That has a great range. We might have to collaborate on something, Aaron. The Hero.
I think we should.
That sounds fun. So yeah, so Hero Monroe as one word. Will you put it in a checkout and you'll get 25% off of your entire order. So there's no right now. The only I guess the stopping point, I guess you would say, for that is going to be our subscriptions. That's the only thing that it won't work on, and that's because our subscriptions are already, I mean, drastically low in the expense for them. So that's the only caveat. You can't use it on subscriptions, and then you can't use it on the Brutus Monroe events website either. It will not work there. But you can use it on any Brutus Monroe product, any of our partner products that we have, and you can. It won't work on obviously clearance, but you can also use it on Scoozies. So
Oh.
ScoosiesCandy.com. You can actually get the Scoozies candy just by clicking at the top of Brutus Monroe. It's a separate website, but it's not a separate website. It's a part of our back end, but you can use that coupon code on either. So if you want to go to Scoozies and grab, we have phenomenal Halloween stuff that I think it gets to you in time. But we just launched all of our holiday stuff because remember at Scoozies we don't just have other brands like we have at Brutus Monroe. We have our own line of candy as well, which was quite the feat to get into. But we have our own jarred candy. We have a really cool offering of Scoozies candy as well. They come in these, and of course I don't have one here because I think I just finished eating it. But it's they come in these really cool jars that have the Scoozies branding and stuff on the top. So they're great stocking stuffers, and I think they're like $5 a jar for these big jars of different candies. So yeah, use it and have fun. I mean, you can get a lot of great stuff for 25% off. I can tell you that.
Sounds great. I'm definitely going right now, going to the candy store particularly. Um, and
I'll have to send you a
I
care
love,
package.
yeah, I love Hero Monroe. Let's do something together. And
That'd be fun.
Pink and Hero. I mean, come on, let's
I like
find.
that too.
That's great. The pink hero.
Pink and
Yeah.
Hero Monroe. There you go.
Yep.
There we go. So
Yeah.
let's find ways to work together. Somebody suggested a map of all the various places to visit and all the various craft companies across the U.S.
Oh,
That would be
good
really
idea.
fun too.
Oh, and the
So-
sale is
People-
until October 31st. I just saw that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say October 31st, you can use that coupon code until.
Got it. Okay.
people are always asking me to do a cruise. I'm thinking
Mm.
like a caravan through like all start down by Michelle and Dana
Oh,
and Pam
yeah.
and my
Yes.
favorite things, and then just like take a long
Just
and windy
cruising.
road and end at Hero
Yeah.
Arts.
I love it. Now that would be an event
I'm not
for
paying for the
sure.
gas though.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. No. And we'll have to have Christopher supply the candy.
Oh
Ah,
yeah.
I, I've become an expert taste tester of all things candy. That's for sure.
Wonderful.
Nice.
All right. Well, it's been a ton of fun. Thank you all for joining us tonight. As always, man, it's what a way to spend an hour and a half together. It really is a joy. I appreciate all of you joining, all of you coming to tune in with Jennifer and I, and to talk with both of you, Michelle and Christopher. It really is a joy. I really appreciate getting to know you and hearing your stories. And yeah, I just love this industry. Thank you for being a part of Hanging with Hero tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you for
Michelle,
having us. I
Michelle, I
We
really
just want to
enjoyed
tell
appreciate it.
it.
you
Thank you.
I just want to tell you, Michelle, how proud I am of you, my friend, because I can remember
Oh,
when we
thanks.
first started together on this, and I remember some of our first conversations, and I am so honored to be doing this with you tonight because it's incredible that we get to do what we love every single day. And I can remember some of our very first conversations and being so lost together in figuring this out. And I'm so proud of all you've accomplished.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about you, Christopher. When they said you want to do this alone or with someone, I said I can do it alone. I also work well with others. And then they said, "How about Christopher Brutus Monroe?" I said, "Oh, he's a
I was
friend.
so
That
excited.
definitely that'd be wonderful."
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. Mhm.
That's
Thank
great. And
you.
congratulations to both of you on 10
Yes.
years. Really
Thank
exciting.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, everybody have a great night. See ya.
And
Thanks for
Love
good
you
joining.
all.
night.